Welcome to episode 15 of the Fitasylum podcast. Today we're joined by Harry. We're going to talk a little bit about CPDs and what they are. Harry, are you a big fan of CPDs?
Yeah. No, they're pretty good. It's the best way in the industry to update knowledge, and you can do it free of charge. So
you can indeed.
It's always good.
We have our own platform if you would like to join it. You can jump in the description. But we're going to talk about the benefits of CPD and what are CPDs? So Harry, do you want to tell us a little bit about what a CPD is?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's come up, hasn't it? Because the learners are asking us.
Yeah, basically.
Well, everything comes from learners, what they're asking us, isn't it, basically? But, they do a SWOT analysis. Then at the bottom of the page it says, why does benefit CPD? We'll go, all right, well, I don't even know what CPD is. So CPD basically is continuous professional development. And as a professional, which all PTs are professionals, because you're getting paid for a service, you need to continuously develop in order to order a good service for your clients. Yeah.
I think CPD is important because you've got to continue to develop. You've got to keep up with science. If you started 10 years ago in the industry as a PT, a lot of what you knew then isn't relevant for what you need to know now. Yeah. So I think that's so important, and that's why continuous professional development, is around. It's important as well because other people's service will be getting better. You need to make sure your service is moving with the times as well. And it can be seen as like a process. So at Fitasylum, we always look to develop, whether it be we've added the courses. Last year, we've added level 4. We've added the workshops. We've added our own mentorship. There's so much that we're looking to always develop. And, that old analogy is if you're not moving forward, you're standing still. It seems very true.
Yeah, you regress, don't you?
So how do we track CPD, Harry?
Well, the CPD, there's different ways you can do CPD, but if you want to keep a track and keep a log, which we have to as staff members, that we get challenged by our industry experts, like the EVs, the back-to-IQs in the world. So we complete a log, basically, just a Word document of a log of hours. So your hours could be, I've done 8 hours e-learning on how to improve science or knowledge in PT, and that can be logged as CPD. Doesn't always have to be a regulated qualification. It can be something that's just further learning.
Yeah, I remember doing my CPD with SimSpa when I was a chartered PT, and it was a really simple little log that you just kind of put in what you might have watched a video or a podcast, which a lot of people are surprised is a CPD, and then you might talk about like what you got out of it, which is really good. But when I moved to Fitasylum, they have probably a more in-depth version of that, where it'll say where is the certificate or notes kept. It'll ask us how it benefits the students, what qualification does it entail. You also put the date on it, which I think is important. So you might watch a podcast, you might listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video or listen to an audiobook, and as long as you're thinking, how can I adapt this to my service, that can be a CPD. You have to kind of jot some notes down, maybe make some changes to your practice, maybe talk about how it's benefiting you as a professional, and you need to keep that all in one place, ideally.
Yeah, well, listening to this episode is continuous professional development because you're learning how to continually professionally develop. So you can put this down as a log because you're learning and developing and therefore improving the service for your clients.
Is that Inception?
It's Inception. CPD Inception.
CPD Inception. So you might listen to a podcast like this one and then you might write some notes about it. So the biggest takeaway from it, how you're going to adapt it to your practice, how you're going to adapt it to your students.
Isn't it? Application into the real world.
Applying it, 100%. So you touched on it before. You talked about professionals. So what is a professional? Because a lot of PTs don't class themselves as a professional.
Yeah, well, you have to, for a start, because someone's paying you for a service to which you're qualified in. So it's just like paying your plumber. You expect them to be professional, require service, customer service. You expect a lot out of them. In the same way, your clients will expect that from you because they're paying you money.
Yeah, I mean, even when I started as a PT, I didn't think it was a profession per se. But I always thought a profession was like an accountant or something like that, or like a financial advisor. But yeah, it is a profession, and you have to go to education to be certified. You have to have special insurance, and you have to deliver a professional service, and you're getting paid for that professional service. So is there any tips that you give people on CPD in general or being a professional?
Yeah, well, there's different types of CPDs to start off with. So there's stuff like the podcast, which would be like a free resource. But then there's regulated qualifications, which would be a bigger chunk of your CPD budget, really. So, I mean, I just completed a qualification, level 7 strategic leadership. That was a paid course, long form, had certification, has regulation in the industry, get those little fancy titles at the end of your name, which is always good. But that would be a bigger budget one, a regulated one. Yeah. Or you could do free CPDs like Fitasylum Academy, for example, whereby you can just learn about stress reduction or sleep cycles, which is just an hour webinar. You get a certificate to prove that you've done it, and then also you can take that away and learn and apply it straight away. Yeah,
so usually from the research I've done is you usually need between 22 and 24 CPD points a year as a professional, depending on what profession you're in. So I know as a PT with SimSpa, you have to do 22 points a year. How many is the level 3 certificate?
So level 3 certificate, I think, is around about 8 points.
Yeah. So if you do your level 2 and 3, you'll get a little bit more. If you go on and do our CPD course at the end of the course, you've got even more. So you're over halfway there just by completing your course for your first year. But yeah, as a professional, you're looking to do 22 to 24 CPD points a year. And a lot of students say, well, how long will that take me? And I usually say to them, well, if you think of 1 hour video, if you watch it and make notes on it, that's usually about 1 point. Would that be a rough guide?
Yeah, it all depends on the regulation, but I mean, SimSpa will, that's probably the system SimSpa will use, because they ask you to submit a log every year, which is why we're talking about recording it, because they will ask for that and evidence of everything that you've done, because they won't just take your word for it.
So it might take you 22 hours, which realistically is nothing, is it? If you just did a couple of hours a month, you're there easily.
Yep.
You could do 2 hours a month, you got 24. So I think that's really realistic. And also, that status as a chartered professional, if you did go down that route as a PT, I think does set you aside. And a lot of PTs are not very academic as a standard, but I think if you said to someone you're a chartered PT, I do think it adds weight. Would you agree?
Yeah, chartered means backed by law.
Yeah.
So when you're backed by law and backed by legislation, there's a higher value attained to that. So if you are a chartered PT, therefore you are more sensibly a high value PT, and you're always looking to maintain that professionalism. The reason that SimSpa exists in a way is because they're trying to professionalize the industry, and the way they do that is by completing CPD.
That's really interesting, because I know in accountancy, again, to reference that, a chartered accountant can do a lot more than what a non-chartered accountant can do.
Yeah.
And it's the same in the PT industry. Your scope of practice is greater the longer you've got, the more experience you've got, and also the greater your educational background with CPD, the more scope of practice you can deliver. And they even have like chartered nutritionists or chartered dietitians, and they're allowed to deliver a lot more.
Yeah, legally.
Legally. And that's the thing.
It's legally, yeah.
So it makes you a higher standard. And ultimately, with a higher standard, you could charge more money.
Yes, the bottom line.
That's the same as what a chartered accountant does.
Yeah,
if they're a chartered, they charge more money. So that's where the incentive might come in for you. You might be thinking from the money aspect to the people listening. But I think CPD is just, when I first heard about it, and I remember doing like a CPD log for uni and a CPD log for when I first became chartered, I actually didn't think it was very relevant. But then a couple of years into my PT, I actually thought, well, one, I worked out that I could use YouTube and Audible as references, which I didn't know at the time. I thought it all had to be like registered courses through, I know SimSpa offered quite a lot when you become a member.
They do.
Harry, you said about FitPro just off the pod.
FitPro offer free CPDs and also paid webinars, so you can pay to attend a live workshop or live webinar on a specific topic, which would count as a CPD.
So a good example is like Holly, the menopause coach who we've had on the podcast previously. This Friday just gone, she delivered a workshop. That would be a CPD for anyone watching that workshop.
Yeah, because you're learning. You're learning, aren't you? Someone who's qualified is teaching you on a subject. You're watching it, you're learning, and you will apply it. That's literally what a continuous professional development means.
So some of our CPDs that we've got recently is we did a health and safety in the workplace.
We did, yeah.
We do, at the start of the year, we did some SEND CPD. We've done prevent. Yeah. We've done quite a lot this year already.
Yeah, we do some mandatory stuff as a company, so we do a lot of safeguarding stuff, as you can imagine, applying safeguarding, how to report low-level concerns, health and wellbeing checks. All the staff actually most recently became mental health awareness level 2 qualified. That's a regulated qual, so as a company we believe in making sure all the staff are up to date with CPD, and the way we do that is we pay for it. One of the incentives also is, like is you're doing a level 5 at the moment teaching, so that's something that we funded because it benefits both you but also our students more because you have a higher level of teaching qualification.
Yeah, I would also like think about that when you are thinking about what job role to take. If you're looking at a gym and they offer you continued professional development as part of your maybe gym rent,
yep.
I would definitely see that as a huge positive.
Yes.
Because then you will have, you know, it's there, it's kind of the structure and a routine. I know when I was at Total Fitness, every Wednesday was CPD day, whether it was being delivered online or whether you could go down to Handforth and partake in a CPD workshop or seminar, which was really, really beneficial to me. And I know I paid a lot of rent at Total Fitness, but I saw that as a huge benefit. And I think, you know, working for Fitasylum, that's a huge plus for me that we get CPD provided, and also a huge amount of funding in terms of me doing my level 5, which I'm very grateful for. So when you know, even if you're not a PT in any professional industry, if you've got a job offer, maybe these are things you could consider.
These are questions you want to ask, like, how am I going to be developed in the workplace? These are questions that you as an employee need to ask, because they're always about, well, what are you going to do for us? But actually, when you go into a job role, it's a relationship. So you need to go, well, what are you going to do for me as well? Like, why would I buy into what you're selling as well as the other way around, right?
100%, I would definitely agree from that. So we do free CPD at Fitasylum.
We do.
And we started it recently, and it's an excellent platform on Teachable. You can download the app if you're on iPhone. The Android one will be coming later in the year, I believe, from Teachable. And it's an easy way of getting your CPD in. It's completely free. And if you go on there, the videos are easy to watch, and hopefully it'll help people become more developed and help keep enhancing their knowledge.
Yeah, we've got some good topics on there, actually. I think a lot of the tutors in Fitasylum are now doing their own CPDs that they're passionate about. So Jasmine's doing pre- and postnatal nutrition, recommendations for exercise. We'll have Pilates on there soon. We're just developing the qual for that. I know you've done online, how to become an online PT, also advanced programming, hopefully in the near future. Nathan's big into his sleep and tracking data, which is very on brand for Nathan. And then he's done sleep cycles, CPD. I've done one on stress reduction. So we're trying to find things that we're passionate about rather than just going, Dec, can you do one on safeguarding, mate? I know you know it's interesting, but maybe that's not your area that you're an expert on, though, right? So we find people who are passionate, and then they do their CPD, so you can learn from people who are actually interested in it.
So yeah, guys, get in the description, check it out. It's completely free. Why not? But just going back to something you just mentioned, then you talked a little bit about how I wouldn't necessarily deliver one on health and safety or safeguarding, but students or professionals don't have to do a CPD in their industry, do they?
No.
You can do it in anything, and I actually have found this the most beneficial way of CPD, because I like to take something from a completely different sector and see, and I always think, how can I develop that structure or process into my practice, whether that be as a personal trainer, gym owner, just a human being, or in my role currently as a tutor and assessor. So it's really interesting how you can develop your practice for a number of different areas.
Yeah, you can do stuff on like mindfulness, or you could learn about any rando topic. Like you're talking about different podcasts about looking at different training from different people, like restaurants, and going, right, well, how do they do staff training? What can I learn from their processes as a manager, as a business owner? Looking at different people, maybe going to networking events. I know you're big on that, aren't you?
Networking events. I think when you do, like when I did my sports coaching qualification at college, I remember thinking, they were asking us to watch other sports coaches, and I think that's where that comes from. Looking at other sports and then trying to take ideas from them, and then, you know, obviously you can put them into your own practice. But where else can we get CPD from other than, say, I know you've mentioned SimSpa, we've mentioned FitPro, we've mentioned our own CPD platform, but where else could CPD be found?
So you can get them in different places where you're looking for. I mean, there's the CMI, if you're looking at leadership and management, that's what I'd recommend. Chartered Management Institute, another chartered recognised area. If you're looking at management or business skills, you've got the FitPro Skills Hub Active IQ, offer a free resource if it's PT related industry. You've got websites like Dharma Seed for meditation and mindfulness training and CPD qualifications. You could just Google free CPD courses and they'll come up.
I think, first of all, YouTube is a massive one.
Good,
it's huge. You know, it's massively used for CPD. Audible, huge. If you're not a big bookworm, listening to books while you're walking or driving is a huge one. Podcasts, huge again. And then the other one is I love Mass Research. It was one that I found at university. MASS Research. You have to pay a subscription to it, but they do they deliver research papers as well as research videos specifically on strength and conditioning and the science around training clients. And I think that's one that I would recommend highly as in terms of a paid one. But I also like to think of when I was a PT to try and pay for one course a year. So I did OPEX Fitness, which was really good for any PTs listening. I also did the Joe DeFranco CPPS course when I was really young. British weightlifting qualifications. I think expanding your repertoire of qualifications only makes you a better coach. I think, is it the old analogy of the more tools you have, the better your craft and work will be. So I think that's really important. But what CPDs have we got to look forward to for 2023, Harry? What would you like us to deliver more on?
Well, we're going to be launching more of the business-based ones. So I know Jasmine, a tutor, work in the industry as a commercial trainer, David Lloyd, she's going to walking the shop floor, interacting with customers and client bases, just generating actual conversations with people, which is a funny one, but very important if you're going to be a face-to-face PT. More marketing and sales for online PTs, like actual marketing strategies. I think we're finding in some of the business plans that the PTs are putting together, the marketing plan lacks content and structure.
Definitely.
So we're going to work on how do you actually plan for marketing, lead generation tools, click funnels, website design, content planners,
basic content setup,
everything. So we're looking more on the business route now. So we've got our topics, but it's like when you become a PT, how do I actually do things?
Well, we're also going to do some CPDs on some of the questions that our mentorship WhatsApp group have asked us for. So they've asked us for how would you do a flexibility assessment with a client, which I think is really interesting. We're also going to do a CPD later on in the year about how to do a client consultation, which I think is really important.
A literal one, like actual walkthrough of how to do it.
We're also going to do CPD courses on basic setup of squat, bench, deadlift. The other ones we've been asked for are how to train clients with high blood pressure, any adaptations you would make for a client with diabetes or a recent heart issue or respiratory issue. So these are some of the podcasts and also CPDs that you guys can look forward to. And if you're in the mentorship group, we'll be doing private videos for you guys specifically on this and going into a little bit more detail. And if you do want to try the mentorship for free, just jump down into the description and you'll see a link to it there. You sign up and you get your first month for free.
30 days free trial, and if you can watch all the videos, but more importantly, you get added to the WhatsApp group, which is what we're saying is you get that personalised private videos based on questions and answers, and that more of that one-to-one support, right? Yeah,
definitely. And if the paid version's only £30 a month, so it's pretty cheap anyway. But what CPDs really stick with you, Harry? Is there any in particular that you've really enjoyed maybe this year or over the years?
Yeah, I enjoyed doing my masters. I know not everyone wants to do that because it's quite lengthy, but it taught me how to independently research and be critical of research, which a lot of people, they read something they don't quite understand. Well, actually, I don't have to listen to it. I can be critical of it. That's a skill that I've learned in the industry now, is to apply that to everything that I read and write. And also the management calls that I've been on to, because that's about creating culture and speaking to people, communication, relationship building. Those are kind of things that always
like
stuck
personal development as well, aren't they? A lot of them.
Yeah, mostly they are. When you get to like the leadership and management, it is a lot more about personal development, how you interact with the
people. Which is really interesting, isn't it? It's not necessarily on delivery, it's on personal
It's not even about business skills in a way, really. It's not like, well, if you get this X's, O's and numbers in the right place, that might be part of it, but it's more about how you interact with other people.
Yeah. Another form of CPD could be getting a mentor as well. And any session you have with that mentor, you could potentially take notes from. And it's the same with, I remember SimSpa advising me when I had like accountancy meetings, if I learned anything, kind of jot it down and that'd be part of it, which was really interesting. Same when I had a business coach, but some CPDs that have stuck with me. Obviously, I mentioned OPEX Fitness, which is an American brand. I've also mentioned the CPPS course and mass research, but I've really enjoyed some of the other areas that we've gone into this year at Fitasylum, where we did the health and safety one, which I actually found really interesting. We did an autism awareness course recently, which really opened my eyes upon how we need to help students, but also how we can help students. We did the mental health one, which I thought was interesting as well, and all these little topics that we cover, and we have to do a CPD every single month
Yep.
at Fitasylum,
Yep.
and we're really big on it, and they put a lot of training courses on for us at Fitasylum, which is amazing, and it really just continues that development. We had Kaz on the last podcast on episode 14, and even stuff with sitting down with the IV. I remember when she came out to Liverpool to speak to me, it was so beneficial to have Kaz sit down and go through your practice of this is what you do well, this is what you don't do so well. So, you know, part of your CPD, if you're listening as a personal trainer, is you might get another coach to watch you, you might get feedback from a client.
Feedback is really important,
So, you know, guys, there's so many ways, and this is my point, there's so many ways to get CPD that everyone should be doing it, and there's no excuse why you shouldn't be doing it.
No, so important in the industry nowadays.
Anything else you'd like to add, Harry?
No, I think that's good. I think just look out for what we're up to. I mean, there's a lot of free stuff out there. You should really just like
make
focus
use of
on make use of all the free stuff. Like we're doing stuff, but not just us. Like the whole industry, there's a lot of content that's really very useful.
Yeah, I'd definitely say make use of it. I remember when I signed up to Mass Research, I think it was only like $3 or $4 a month, and anyone who signed up at then have stayed at that price. I remember when I did the CPPS course, that was really cheap as well, and I've done other courses that were completely free that I'm now charging for. So guys, make sure you do check out our free CPD. Also, if you want a free trial, check out the mentorship, and later down the line we will be doing a coaching mentorship program, which will be looking into greater detail about specific movements, how to train clients in certain areas, but also how to train clients on a day-to-day basis from a coaching standpoint. And if you do have any questions, please drop them in the comments. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting for the podcasts. I'd also like to finish by saying I'm glad I'm back to being the host. Thank you very much for jumping on, pal. I think your insight into the professional world and the CPD world is massive, and I'd love us to talk about your masters a little bit more.
Yeah, feel free anytime.